Electric cars are important. In 10 years, fully 1/4 of all cars being made globally will have an EV capability. Also, our government has grand plans and wants to double the numbers of EVs in New Zealand every year to reach 64,000 by the end of 2021. Well, the immediacy of electric driving certainly isn't reflected in the time leading the charge is taking to spread its message. A drive that could conceivably be achieved in just over 2 days is taking 3 weeks. Range considerations do affect the daily distances, but the primary reason why they're taking so long is because the route is far from direct, and they're also stopping frequently to bang the drum. The first vehicle I'm steering on this run stands out for 3 reasons. It's New Zealand's best-selling EV, it's the sole sports utility in the EV sector, and though it's categorised as an EV, it's not wholly electric. Range extenders tend to rankle purists. They'll tell you that having a petrol engine to abet performance isn't playing a green game. But until New Zealand has a fast recharge station in every town, and potentially in quite a few spots between, this is quite patently the best way to go. Leading the charge is the first big test for the updated version that has just landed here. It's different to the first in that it has capability for fast recharging, so instead of taking hours and hours, replenishment is just a coffee stop job. The real world EV only range is about the same as before, around 50 km-ish. So even though today's run is only of around 140k and taking 2 hours, we will burn some juice. Alright, well here we are, we're in Palmerston North, a pretty effortless lovely 2-hour drive in very nice road conditions, and yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with it. We just drove as anyone normally would, 100 km per hour in the zones that allow you to do that. Average consumption of 5.6 litres per 100 kilometres. Yeah, 71% of that time was in a ratio where we were using some amount of battery input. Now, one thing I should point out is that when I picked up this car this morning, it was not on a full charge. But yeah, I'm happy with that. It's a nice car. One thing I've noticed about the update of this car is that they've softened the ride, so it's a really comfortable drive. All the controls are a lot simplified now, not that you have to use it. Basically just put it into drive mode and just drive it as you would any other Outlander. Well, that's us. Looking forward to the i3 now. See you later. Now this is the full electric version. I've driven the range extender models in the past, but never this one. This is new to New Zealand, and this has got the updated battery in it. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of range we get out of it. But we start off with a bit of a doozy, a bit of a sapping exercise in that, because the Manawatu Gorge is closed by a slip. I'm going to have to go via the Saddle Road, and if anybody knows that route, they'll know it's a pretty intense hill climb. I guess we'll get a little bit of energy recovery on the other side, but I think we'll lose more than we gained. I've only gained another 1 kilometre of range from the trickle charge in the 10 hours since last night's final check. So not quite sure whether that means the car's, at optimum battery charge or not. I know they always say it's challenging to get that last 10% into an EV, but all the same. So we've left Waipukurau, and all I can say is yay for fast chargers. This car had fully charged, shown it had fully charged at home, but it was only offering 180 kilometres range. When I unhooked this from the fast charger on Waipukurau, it was to 93% replenishment, and it was showing 207 kilometres range. So obviously it's a stronger kind of electricity over here at the Hawke's Bay. So now we're just heading to another one of those little gatherings of the faithful, where they spread the word about EVs. Interesting behaviours on that side, no more comment than that really. It's a really wacky car, the i3, but I really love it. I think it's a brilliantly designed car. It is starting to show its age in one or two little ways. With the iDrive operation is still a little bit finicky, and also, but what you really notice actually is the media player on it. There's no Apple CarPlay, and it would be all the better for it, I've got to say. Is an i3 good for a long distance drive? Look, it's competent. It was never designed to be a big out of town driving
experience. This is a city car. It is absolutely brilliant at that, and this is the kind of car that I've always imagined would be best at home in a big metropolis.
Yeah, day 3 in Napier. My final day on this drive, and I'm with the big one. This car is the Elite. That's the 65990 version. This car is has leather and heated seats, which I won't be using, aircon, which I won't be using. It also has Apple CarPlay, which I will be using, not only because I'd like to listen to podcasts, but also because then I can run my sat-nav in it. I can use the Google Maps. Now, in theory, I have a full battery. In theory, I also have 190 kilometers range. And in theory, this trip might take up to, I might be clocking up to 180 or so kilometers today. So it's all rather tight, and here's another thing. Unlike yesterday, there were no fast recharge stations between here and Napier. Just there are a couple of campgrounds I can call into and charge up at, but I'm not that keen because I hear that that's basically trickle charging, and I'd be there for hours. If anything tells you that EV designers must think about the earth being flat, it's driving this car between Napier and Taupo, which obviously is anything but flat. If you know that route, there's a lot of climbs, and there's okay, so it's been quite interesting. I have been driving in economy mode as much as possible in the eco setting on the dash, and in most cases I have been driving at 90 kilometers per hour, and that is all to keep it out of the power setting on the dash display, which I know means I'm using more electricity than I can probably be prudent, because it's on the maximum regenerative mode. It has been gaining energy from kinetic means and go back into the battery. I am replenishing that, but not that much, frankly, even though some of the hills have been some of the ascents have been quite steep. So all I can think is that yes, it can do it. Whether you'd want to do it is another thing. Here's another thing. There are 2 campgrounds on the way. I actually stopped at the second one at Tarawera because I thought, oh well, you know, it might be open for a coffee, and that's obviously one of the places that's on the app which tells you where you can actually go and plug an electric car and replenish it. Well, the place was closed, so I don't know how you get on. One thing I'll say about the Ioniq, it's just reaffirmed my opinion that this is the best EV, new EV on the market today, no question. It's the most car-like, it's the most comfortable, it's the roomiest, it's the best value for money, and in open road driving, it's dynamically very adept. It's got a nice balance to it. It's got lovely ride, much better than the BMW, I've got to say. And it's, you know, it's an easy enough car to drive. I've enjoyed it, and but I don't think I'll be doing it again in a hurry.